Time now for the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
That's right. You're listening to the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge, your country, serving Northeast Vermont and Northwest New Hampshire. I'm Josh, and we've got another great show lined up for you. This week, Gary sits down with Lisa Sausville, Executive Director of the Vermont Coverts, Woodlands and for Wildlife, to talk about forestry, wildlife habitat, conservation, and helping landowners better understand and care for Vermont's woodlands. We're also going to bring you our spring backyard report with Corey Collins. This week, Corey has some exclusive news about the 2026 Collins Corn Maze, including a first look at this year's theme and what visitors can expect when the maze returns later this season. And as always, we're going to check in with Mark Breen from the Fairbanks Museum for the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams outdoor forecast. So we're chock-a-block full today, guys. So without further ado, we're going to get started.
Good evening and welcome to Thoughts on the Outdoors. My guest today is Lisa Sausville. She's the Executive Director of Vermont Coverts, a program I feel very strongly about. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi, Gary. Thanks for having me.
Would you tell us a little bit about Vermont Coverts, its history and so forth?
Sure. Vermont Coverts, Woodlands for Wildlife, that's the full name of the organization, started in about 1983 out of Extension, when Tom McAvoy received a grant from the Rough Grouse Society.
You're talking about UVM Extension.
Correct, okay. UVM Extension. He was the forester at the time.
Right.
And he, along with Steve Broderick in Connecticut, were given a grant from Rough Grouse Society to find a program, develop a program that was going to reach the millions of landowners and share about wildlife management and forest stewardship. And so it started in 1984, was the first class that went through. And what we are is a peer-to-peer education organization to share about forest management and wildlife stewardship. And so started the first class in 1984 and has spread across the country as master forest owner or master steward or covert. In Massachusetts, it's the Keystone program. So this program is now nationwide.
Oh, wow. The program that actually started through UVM Extension grew to become nationwide.
Yes. It's not in every state, but a lot of states have these kind of programs to help landowners learn about forest management and wildlife stewardship. And it really started with Connecticut and Vermont. And so covert is an Old English word for cover or thicket,
right.
So places that wildlife like to hide.
Right.
But it's also a portmanteau, where you put two words together. So Connecticut and Vermont. So covert.
There we go. Great. And I know New Hampshire has a program of coverts also.
They do. They do.
Yeah. Wow. How's it funded?
Well, that's an interesting question. So as I said, it started in Extension, and all the other programs that exist in the country that are active right now, they're all still out of Extension. But Vermont was fostered off into an independent nonprofit. And so we are actually the only one that operates independently. And we have an annual drive that we do every fall. We're not actually a membership-based organization. People who go through the Coverts Cooperator training are called cooperators. They're members, but there is no membership fee. So
Right.
It's through an annual drive that we get money, and then we have an endowment that we've started that helps us a little bit, and then grant money is very important to us as well. And so we look for support from landowners and others during that annual drive time, and we use that as match to a lot of the grants, so
Sure.
it kind of doubles the money.
Yeah. So your job as executive director also involves probably a lot of fundraising and grant writing?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I kind of wear a lot of hats, so programming and also the fundraising and all other aspects of the organization.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I feel very strongly about Vermont Coverts. I went through the program in 1998. Back then, many people within the sound of this radio remember James Engel. Mm-hmm. Jim lived in Peacham, but up in West Groton, he had a large piece of property and a house he spent mostly the summer months. And he was the one that got me interested in Vermont Coverts.
Yeah, James was great. I mean, we had a lot of programs on his property. He was a wonderful person to share about coverts, but more importantly, share about the stewardship of his land. That's
Right.
really the goal, is that landowners share with each other. So when it started, we had this one forester to try and reach all the citizens in the state. And so the idea of coverts was to train people in the communities about it, and that those people would then share with others. Similar to what you're doing by this radio show. You're making sure other people hear about forest stewardship and wildlife management, and that we can care for our forests, whether they choose to take our program or attend one of our stewardship workshops, or just talk to their neighbor, or say, hey, I can pull those invasive garlic mustard on my property and I can improve habitat by doing that. So James was a great ambassador of sharing about stewardship of his land. What a beautiful property.
Another one that was actively involved back then up in Derby, he taught at Lyndon State College at the time, but he was very active in promoting it in the Northeast Kingdom, I know. And I think he was might have been one of the board presidents at one time, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of great people that have been involved, and and are still getting involved. We talk about it being like the magic of going through this program. Like you said, you speak with such awe and reverence for these people who came before you, and people do the same now about you. And there's always people who are involved in the community and the connections that are made through going through the coverage training. It's an immersive weekend of learning. If you take the training, it goes Friday through Sunday, and it's just magical when people come out of it with such things as that this changed my life. This changed the way I looked at my forests. So that's really very, very powerful.
Right. Well, I think connections is the key word here. They get introduced to foresters, wildlife biologists, fisheries biologists, all sorts of professionals in the field of managing woodlands and wildlands and so forth, but also they make those connections with their neighbors, and they meet people that are landowners that want to learn the same things and share back and forth, and that's a critical thing. Excuse me. Why don't we, for a minute, talk about the semi-annual Vermont Coverts programs you run, what's involved?
Sure. The Coverts Cooperator Training, which in Vermont is the only one also that it takes place 2 times a year. So our training takes place in the spring and in the fall. We move it around the state so that we just had it at Potash Hill down in Marlborough, and we'll have our fall training at Kehoe Conservation Camp in Castleton. And so we move them so that people around the state have options to come. But it's so funny, sometimes when we have it up in like Derby, people from southern Vermont will come just so that they can get up to the kingdom. So that's a lot of fun. But the training
I went to one up to West Charleston, and they came from all over there.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, you were one of our speakers, which is great. And we bring in our past cooperators as speakers to share what they've done since they've been a cooperator, what they've shared in their community, what kind of workshops they either hosted or attended, things like that. But the training itself, so as I said, it goes from Friday morning through Sunday, and we move through history of wildlife on the landscape, forest ecology, wildlife management, silviculture. We talk about legacy planning, and we do all this through both classroom time, so presentations from some of the biologists, and then we also go out in the field and we look at these things out in the field. And everyone in the group is a sharer, is a learner and a teacher. Like if we went out in the woods for a walk, you and I'd be able to share things with you, but you would be able to share things with me. And so we're all learners and we're all teachers, and that's really an important part as well. So they go through this training, and towards the end we talk about ways they can contribute, both working on their land and working within their communities.
Yeah. Really, it exposes people to the professionals that they might not otherwise have a chance to talk to and ask those questions they always wanted to know. I think that's a good place for us to pause for a moment.
It's a St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
You've picked the paint colors, maybe even sketched a layout on the back of an envelope, or made the playlist for your grand opening. But without a design, it's just a dream. Riverside Design Works in Bradford makes those dreams real for families and small businesses across the Upper Valley. Affordable, functional, and community-focused, We build for your needs and within your budget. But heads up, the 2026 construction season is booking fast. If you want shovels in the ground next year, you need plans today. Keep it simple. Riverside Design Works. Smart choices, reliable results.
Spring is here. Oh, what a delight. Bachelor Carpentry will build it just right. A deck for the stars or a porch for the sun, we craft perfect spaces for everyone. So cheer and chuckle, let's start the fun. Visit vtcarpenter.com. Our work's never done. Spring projects are here. Let's give them a run.
Every business story starts small. As you share your story, it creates movement, and movement builds momentum. Your social media and website are the conduits for that story. It's about more than clicks and views. It's about creating connection, community, and opportunity to do business. It's time to tell your story. Go to northeastkingdomonline.com. Our local Vermont team can help you get more from your online media. Once again, that's northeastkingdomonline.com.
Welcome back to Thoughts on the Outdoors. If you're just joining us, with me tonight is Lisa Sausville, the Executive Director of Vermont Coverts. And we've been talking about this wonderful program that benefits landowners in Vermont and all the sportsmen and others that use that land. Lisa, tell us some more about your program that you run twice a year.
So the core program that we run is called the Vermont Coverts Cooperator Training, and it's where landowners and others, so we have some professionals like county foresters that have gone through it, and consulting foresters, biologists. So all of these people come together for a weekend learning and immersion, and it becomes a very magical experience with people connecting and learning about the opportunities on their land. Some are enrolled in current use and some aren't and didn't know about the program, and they're like, oh, wow, I want to do that. Or they don't know that there's NRCS monies available to help get some practices implemented on their property. So they're like, wow, I didn't know I could do that. Some people are Conservation Commission members who go through the program. And so it's really, really a wonderful weekend. We move it around the state. It's free, which is really important as well.
I'm going to say, yes, it is.
All that we ask is a $100 deposit to hold your space. And should you wish to request it at the end of the training, you're welcome
Right.
to. Many choose to donate it at the end.
But that pays for room and board.
Room, board, and
And
all
all
the
the-
materials that you get during the training.
Right. Great.
And what's nice about the training is once they go through the training, we have other opportunities for them to jump into to keep the learning going. And so they're part of this peer-to-peer network to connect with others like yourself who've gone through the training, through things on the internet, through field walks, through online programs like our Coverts book group. And then we also have advanced trainings that we offer generally every other year. Last year we did ecological forestry. It was very similar to the cooperator training. It was 2 nights, and we brought in Paul Catanzaro and Tony Diamato, who just came out with a new book called Tending the Forest. And so we brought them in, and we were sort of their guinea pigs before the book came out on teaching these concepts in a classroom kind of experience. And it was great, and another immersion experience that was then these people took it back to their land, they took it back to their communities to share and implement these kind of practices on their property, writing them into their forest management plans. Really, the goal is to take people and move them from interest to awareness to action. We want to see them active on their properties and in their communities.
Right. Well, I know that you try to assign those graduates from the most recent class to someone else who's been through before, so they have another local connection. They can share things, and I think that works pretty well.
We're calling them forest steward buddies, and partly because they're both learning together. As I said earlier, it was like it's a community where we share, where everybody's a learner and everybody's a teacher. And so it's not like a mentor where you have to know everything.
Right.
And that's the same thing about cooperators sharing, because they really just know how to steer somebody to the resource, whether it be a book or whether it be a biologist from one of the departments or a forester or a consulting forester. They're really kind of this connector.
Right.
Again, we talk about connection. One of our taglines that I love is connecting people to the land, to wildlife, and to each other.
Yeah. And so much of what we accomplish is based on personal relationships. And for instance, in Orange County here, if someone new's gone through it and they're not quite sure, they can contact some of us who've been through it and say like, oh, why don't you call Dave Pagnelli the Orange County Forester. He'll help. You know, it's that sort of thing that puts people together.
His wife Judith is also a Coverts cooperator.
Right. Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
It's so funny. Often people will talk to me. I'm like, oh, they're a Coverts cooperator. Oh, they're a Coverts cooperator. We've had over 960 go through the program, landowners and others. And so they're out there sharing. They're out there doing things. And so it's really fun to be like, oh, they're a Coverts cooperator. They're a Coverts cooperator.
Right. You mentioned your book group, book club, or whatever. I participated in one of them. Unfortunately, don't have time to do more, but those are done remotely. But you choose a book, and what is it, every other week or something? I don't know how often.
Oh gosh, not that often. I think they'd be upset with me if we met that often. We meet every 2 months.
Oh, every 2 months.
Every 2 months, and
but you do multiple books in a year.
We do multiple books in a year, but we also kind of break them up a little bit because they're often meaty, right? They're nonfiction. They're
Right.
and so we kind of break them up a little bit. And currently, we're reading "Is a River Alive?" We started during the second year of the pandemic, and we started with Sand County Almanac.
Right,
and
that's the one I was involved in.
Yes,
Leopold.
by Alda Leopold.
Right.
And so we read it like an almanac. We read January and February,
That's
and we
right.
discussed it in February. We read March and April, and it was so wonderful because we were reading, and it was springtime in the book, it was springtime here, and so you could relate to what was being written. And after that book was done, I'm like, do you want to continue? And everyone's like, yes, we want to continue. And so we've read many books. We just finished early this year, The Serviceberry by Robin Wall Kimmerer. And we took a field trip and we went and looked at service berries and talked about the gift economy that she talks about in her book. And so every year we try and take at least one field trip together related to one of the books that we read. Yeah, so we read Eager about beavers a few years ago, and we went to a beaver dam and talked about beaver baffles and things that help keep beaver on the landscape.
Yeah. Well, what I want to point out is I think that's an excellent way of connecting people where they don't have to leave home. They can share experiences and learn from each other. And if they feel like it or are capable, then they can take a field trip afterwards. But, reading the same book at the same time, it's a good way to get to know each other.
Yeah, and we even had one of the people who were involved with the book group also then started a book group in their community, at their community library. So it then expanded to more people than just those that were in the Coverts community. So it's that peer-to-peer again, sharing what they're learning and doing something within their community.
Right. Well, I know you do a lot of special programs, but you also were involved in starting the Bear Ambassador program with Vermont Fish and Wildlife.
Yes, that's been a really exciting program because one of the things is community outreach, and sometimes people are like, well, I really don't know what to do.
Right.
And I was talking with Jackie, who's the biologist
Jackie's
with the
appeared
state.
on this show before, so
I'm sure she
our
has.
listeners know Jackie.
And so I'm like, what can we do? How can we share this information and how do we teach people? So they've already gone through the coverage training, so they have a lot of background on forests and forest management and community outreach. So this next step is, here's a topic to share about that community outreach. So they go through the Bear Ambassadors program. Again, we do this with 2 online sessions, and then we have an in-person session where they learn a little bit more about the outreach. They're given a presentation they can give. They're given information to share on their front porch forum or their community listservs to remind people the importance of coexistence. We've sort of affected how bears' behavior changes, and so they're coming to our dumpsters and our garbages. They're coming to our chicken coops and our bird feeders. So how do we keep them in the wild?
And our beehives.
Yeah, that's right, our beehives. So, we talk about electric fencing and how these people can connect with the USDA and maybe borrow fencing to try. Is this, something that we can do? We have a presentation on, take in your bird feeders. I know how many people love birds. I love birds. So let's do native plantings for birds and feed the birds in the winter. They don't need the food from us this time of year. There's so much natural food available. So we talk about how the people can do that and how that benefits wildlife overall, benefits bears, and benefits us.
Right. Very important. It looks like it's about time for us to pause for another break.
All righty.
It's the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
At R&L Archery, we know it's not just about the thrill of the hunt or the size of the fish. It's about the moments that matter most, the traditions passed down from one generation to the next, and the stories told by the fire long after the sun is set. It's about the journey, the memories, and the time spent together with friends and family, because these are the moments that truly last a lifetime. R&L Archery, where every adventure begins. Come create your story.
When spring finally gets here, folks around here don't waste much time getting back outdoors. From fishing tackle and turkey season supplies to the basics that make a day outside go smoother, CCR Sports in St. Johnsbury is ready to help. They know what local outdoor folks need this time of year, and they're happy to help them get ready. Visit ccrsports.net today. CCR Sports has something for all seasons and all ages. And in the North Country, you need both covered.
Miles Supply, your stop for all your general business products, paper towels, toilet paper, first aid kits, and more. Purchase your paper and soap products from Miles, and they'll install the dispensers for free. Do you own a salon, restaurant, coffee shop, or gym making a monthly run to the big box store for your business supplies? Save time with Miles Supply. Call today for a sales visit, 476-3963, or walk directly into their showroom, 143 Boynton Street next to Spalding High School. Miles Supply, family-owned and building relationships since 1954.
It's a St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
The Autosaver Group's St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram asks, do your outdoor adventures take you to where you wish you had a four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive? At St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, explore their vast inventory of adventure-savvy four-wheel drives and all-wheel drive vehicles ready for you to drive at home. Plus, every St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram deal includes the Big Deal Plus, which is a 2-year unlimited scheduled maintenance plan, which includes free state inspections for life. Stop in today in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, or shop St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram online at stjohnsburycdjr.com.
Welcome back to Thoughts on the Outdoors. If you're just joining us, my guest tonight is Lisa Sausville, the Executive Director for Vermont Coverts. We've been talking about this program that not only benefits landowners in Vermont and New Hampshire and other states, but also benefits all of us sportsmen who want to use that land and benefits the wildlife that want to live on it. So, Lisa, tell us more about what you do.
Well, I love that you're bringing the sportsmen into this. I think it's really important. We do talk, with landowners because we work with all kinds of landowners that want to use herbicide and those that don't. And, we bring them together to talk about the topics. And we talk about people who hunt and don't hunt and the importance of, having property and if you have it open and what that means to have property open. It doesn't mean they won't post, but it does mean that they are aware of some of the management techniques and sound science. So we really try and bring all these people together to kind of understand all different aspects of the importance of science-based information and wildlife and how wildlife don't understand boundaries and all those kinds of aspects. And so it's really important that we get and we share all this information so that people can be better stewards of the land. We really need people to care about the land. It's not just a responsibility, but it's an opportunity for us to do good things. We have impacted these lands so much with introduced species, both plant and insect. And so what can we do to keep a resilient forest, instead of panicking and cutting all of our ash trees down?
Right.
What can we do when we think about management? We're thinking about ash, with beech and down in this area, beech leaf disease.
Right.
And, what does that mean for managing beech, which is such an important food source for wildlife?
Yeah, they were just mentioning this past week that amyl ash borer is really spread throughout Orange County. Was spread to almost all the counties of Vermont, but they put out a piece about Orange County just within a few days ago that it's in Bradford right now where I live.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it's up near me in Bristol
Yep.
and other places. I mean, it's
Right.
just like you said, it's pretty much everywhere. And it's just what do we do and how can we think about the future and having ash on the landscape?
Right.
Not just today, and that's just so important. We think about with Coverts and we talk about sort of legacy planning, how to pass this land on to the next generation.
Correct.
and how important it is to think about, what do you want to have happen to your land in the future? Do you care if you see it developed? And so if you don't think about that, if you don't bring your heirs into the conversation, then your wishes may not be carried on. And we actually have a book that we did with partners for the future of the forest. It's available online on our website, and it has worksheets that help you work through the process, like who might the next land steward be? What kind of information do we need to leave for the next land steward? How should we think about our property? Do we want it in a trust or an LLC or a ladybird deed? What kind of things will help us ensure that this land is passed on to the next generation, and they can, kind of afford to have it or understand the responsibility of owning land?
Well, people my age or close to it, they need to think about those things. And I know one of the things that I've watched with Vermont Coverts is educating people about just exactly that, how to talk to your children and so forth and grandchildren before it's too late. When you're in hospice care, it's a little late to talk about, those things take time. But I've seen a lot of connections with the Vermont Land Trust, the Upper Valley Land Trust. You don't have to put it, but give them the options and have those discussions. If you've really dedicated 50 years of your life to that piece of land, you feel very strongly about it. But if you don't make arrangements after you're gone, it could be a housing division, and that's fine if that's what you want. But if you don't want that, you need to plan for that, and I think that's a very important thing that Vermont Coverts does.
We have 2 Passing Lands pop-ups that will be coming up towards the end of the summer, early fall. I think one's in Greensboro, and I think the other might be Dover. But a Passing Lands pop-up is sort of this speed dating option. So if you don't really know where to start with this planning, or you want to talk to someone, you move through different tables, and the table has a mediator. So if you're worried about family problems or how to have these discussions with your next generation, there's a lawyer. So what kind of aspects are involved with the lawyer? There's a forester there. There's a financial planner there. There's a landowner who has conserved their land, and someone from a land trust. And so you move through each of those tables so you can talk about those options, or what are your thoughts, and so you make sure those things can be in place. Or what do you need to have in place? And so they've been very beneficial, and then we can help move them into other programs or options that are available.
Good. Well, what else you want to tell us in the time we have left?
Oh my gosh, I can tell you so much. I could talk so long about the opportunities just to connect with landowners and how beneficial it is for me and for them. But what I really want to share is to find out more, visit our website, which is www.vtcoverts.org. There you can find out information.
And for your listeners out there, in about 2 weeks, it'll be in my newspaper column in the various papers that carry it, so you can get that website there. Or you could just Google Vermont Coverts.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there they can learn more about the program. They can find the application for the training if they'd like to do the training. The fall training is going to be the last weekend in August. I think it's the 28th through the 30th, if I have my dates right. The 29th is our annual meeting, which is open to anybody if you just want to come and learn. We have a number of what we call stewardship workshops. Those are one-day workshops. They're open to anybody coming up. And I have a list here.
Please.
We have a grassland bird walk in Windsor, a butterfly atlas training that's going to be in Addison, an online version which is going to be talking more about BioFinder and understanding mapping tools, a grasslands bird walk in Rochester, a conversation with the authors of that book I was telling you about, Paul Catanzaro and Tony D'Amato. That's going to be at the Norwich Bookstore. A nature journaling workshop that's going to be in Duxbury. And then, of course, as I mentioned, our cooperator training, which is going to be in Castleton.
Right.
We also help sponsor
all of these
loggings.
Things are on the website.
They're all on the website on our calendar. And if you sign up for our e-news, I send out a weekly e-news on Friday that has some musings from me. I think I learned from you, Gary, a little bit about that. And then all of our programming that's coming up, but not only our programming. There are other organizations around the state that do programming. So we have Northwood Stewardship Center, Merck Forest, North Branch Nature Center, Vermont Woodlands Association, the Wyndham Woodland Owners Association. Right. All of these organizations have workshop opportunities. Right. And so we'll put those into that list as well, because whatever opportunity a landowner can take advantage of to learn.
Oh,
we
I
want
look at
them
that
to do it.
every time and see if I have what interests me and where it is if I got time. But they're great. And they're free.
Most of them are, yeah. That's the only ones I put in my workshop, unless it's like a game of logging, are the free ones.
Game of logging gets certification and so forth, yes. But, yeah, that's great. And you don't have to be a big landowner to take the program.
No, you don't.
I know conservation commission people, so forth. It's people that have an interest in the land.
Right, and communicating that beyond themselves, right, and sharing within their communities, which obviously those people do if they're involved on those boards and information. So we really want those people who want to share in various ways, and there's no one way to share. Some people write articles for their newspapers. Some people hold a presentation at the library, and you're not necessarily the one giving the presentation.
Right.
You just might be organizing a speaker to come in, or maybe you just get some cooperators from your area and say, hey, let's walk my land together.
True.
So there's so many different ways that
and some of them put things on front porch programs, listservs and so forth. Then the spring, one of the big things is be bear aware. And, the more people see that on the front porch program or a forum, whatever it is, and listserv, the more they're reminded. It's not just one person saying something, it's somebody in the next town, anyways.
Yeah, you might know them and you might take it. I mean, that's the whole point. It's peer-to-peer. If I hear from you, I'm more likely to be like, hey, Gary's doing that. Why is Gary doing that? And, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Let me think about doing that myself. It's that peer-to-peer. And it's really important, and it's a great way to share.
Good. Well, we're about out of time. I want to know how people can get involved in Vermont Coverts. You mentioned the website. How about our listeners across the river here in New Hampshire? How do they get involved in their program?
So there is a New Hampshire Coverts. Haley Androzoni, I can never say Haley's last name right. Androzoni runs the program. And they only, like I said, offer it once a year. That was in May earlier this year. Mm-hmm. So they just finished a cohort group. We kind of go in a group. And so their next one will be May of 2027. They'll open their applications in January, but they could still go online and visit their website.
Right.
They could just Google for it. And then they can get visited by a New Hampshire Coverts cooperator. That's one thing. If you would like a cooperator to come walk your land, just give me a call or send an email. It's lisa@vtcoverts.org. You'll find the number on the website, and we can find a cooperator in your area that you could talk to that will walk your land with you and share what they've learned. They're not an expert. They're not going to tell you, you need to do this or that on your property. They're just going to, share with you what they've learned. Maybe you walk their property. And it's a great way to meet people, to connect. And happy to connect people with another cooperator. Join, our e-news so you can learn more. Fill out the application for the fall training. How else can they get involved? Show up at one of our stewardship workshops. We have a lot of pre-recorded programs on our YouTube channel, things that we have covered in the past, invasives, the bear program, we have a beaver program, we have a program on invasive species, the mapping program that we're doing will go up there afterwards. So anytime we do an online program, it's recorded and put up to our YouTube channel as another resource.
Great.
Really, we just want to be a resource and help landowners do things on their property.
Great. Well, unfortunately, Lisa, our time is up tonight, but I want to thank you for coming. And for you listeners, I encourage you to go to the website, look at what Vermont Coverts has to offer, and if you have any interest in protecting the woodlands and wildlife, get involved in Vermont Coverts.
Thanks for having me, Gary. This has been great. I could talk forever about Vermont Coverts. So if someone wants to give me a call, and I'll share even more.
Well,
or
I'll tell
back.
you what, Lisa, I'll have you back maybe this fall.
I would love that. Thank you.
Every business story starts small. As you share your story, it creates movement, and movement builds momentum. Your social media and website are the conduits for that story. It's about more than clicks and views. It's about creating connection, community, and opportunity to do business. It's time to tell your story. Go to northeastkingdomonline.com, our local Vermont team can help you get more from your online media. Once again, that's northeastkingdomonline.com.
At R&L Archery, we know it's not just about the thrill of the hunt or the size of the fish. It's about the moments that matter most, the traditions passed down from one generation to the next, and the stories told by the fire long after the sun is set. It's about the journey, the memories, and the time spent together with friends and family, because these are the moments that truly last a lifetime. R&L Archery, where every adventure begins. Come create your story.
Welcome back to the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge. And we just heard before the break, Gary Moore was talking to Lisa Sausville, who is the Executive Director of the Vermont Coverts, Woodlands for Wildlife. And now coming up is Corey Collins. He's going to join us. We had a conversation earlier for our spring backyard report with an exclusive announcement about this year's world-famous Collins Corn Maze, and you'll be among the first to hear what's planned for the 2026 season. So that's coming up right now. So we have a very special guest on the phone. It is Corey Collins from the Collins Family Farm. Corey, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing well. And so this is part of our backyard report, and you have a pretty giant backyard where you are.
It's pretty big. Yes, that's true.
And there's something that you're growing that I learned the other day is actually part of the grass family, and that is corn.
Yes, it is. It is a grass subspecies. You can find a lot of similarities, even the stalks and the blades, their leaves.
Right. And so this is something that the Collins farm is pretty famous for, is the corn maze.
That is true, and we definitely use a lot of corn for that.
Yeah.
So,
now,
if you have questions about corn, I'm happy to answer those.
So what is it? So what? So you're working now for the corn maze now. This isn't something that just happens in the fall. This is something that you're working on presently.
Correct. The corn maze right now is currently planted, so the corn seed is in the ground, and it should be popping out of the ground within the next day or two. It's about a 10-day germination period. And once it pops out, I'm in there with a rototiller. I'm cutting trails. I'm working on marketing, and we're getting signs together. And it's definitely a full start of the season for me, even though guests won't be in till August.
Now, so there's something that I remember talking to you once before about your corn maze. All these other corn mazes uses science, where they have drones and satellite images and all kinds of like things. But you do something that's fairly unique and very New Englandy. How do you get your corn maze made?
Yeah, so actually I freehand it, so to speak. I don't use GPS. I don't use measuring equipment. I hold a hand-drawn sketch in one hand that I've drawn on an aerial image of the field, and I know what my design wants to turn into, and I eyeball it from a tractor. It's a freehand piece of art. It's actually one of the world's largest freehand pieces of art.
Wow. Okay. And so any WYKR exclusives on what the theme's going to be this year?
Well, yeah, I can give you an insight on that. So it's America's 250th anniversary. So I'm going to incorporate as much of America into it as I can. I'm not 100% sure yet. I'll be deciding that within the next 48 hours, but there might be a Statue of Liberty, perhaps the Liberty Bell, an American flag. We'll see, but it's definitely going to be an American theme to celebrate our 250th anniversary.
And so one of the things that we hear about is like, oh, geez, I'm not sure if I'm going to do a corn maze because I get lost. I have no sense of direction. But the Collins Family Farm corn maze is a little bit different also for another reason, I guess, compared to other corn mazes.
Yes, that's true. So I actually give guests a map of the maze when they walk in. So you can use that map to navigate the trails. You're not necessarily just looking for the exit. You're trying to find hidden checkpoints, the answers to trivia questions, and it makes it easy to keep track of where you've been and where you think you need to search next, and it's easy for kids, families with little ones. They get tired, they want to leave. You're not wandering around looking how to get out. You already know because you have the map.
And also, too, it's very family-friendly there.
It is, yes. Everything... we don't get into politics. We don't do off-color jokes in the corn maze. I have joke signs all throughout. It's all very much dad humor in there. If you can deal with some puns, that's the kind of environment that you'd be walking into.
And so what should people go there on an empty stomach? Do you guys have food that you sell there as well?
We absolutely do have food. We have a food truck. We'll be serving up things like, French fries, chicken tenders, onion rings, mozzarella sticks. We might have a couple menu changes coming this year. But absolutely, you can grab a snack while you're down there, or you could even swing up to the greenhouses and grab a snack in the form of some tomato plants or some pepper plants for your own garden. We have all kinds of food options here.
Right, I know, and we've been talking about the corn maze, but your parents actually have the greenhouse open now. I can see it on the front page of the Bridge Weekly Showcase. So they're selling stuff right now.
They are, yes. Stuff has been leaving the greenhouses. We still have plenty left. It's just now planting season. This is the week people should be getting their gardens in, or at least thinking about it. So we anticipate an uptick in traffic, but as of right now, we still have plenty of vegetable starter plants and beautiful flowers, hanging baskets, and arrangements for whatever your growing desires are.
And then people can say, because I remember your parents were on last year talking about that sometimes people come there just to buy some starters. Some people might come in and buy seeds, but some people might just say, you know what, I do not have a green thumb. I'm just going to buy the vegetables straight from you guys.
And you can do that too. Right now we're planting our fields for our farm stand crops. So as produce becomes available later in the growing season, our roadside farm stand will be open and people will be able to come and get that fresh produce at their convenience. So there is that option as well. But even if people don't have a green thumb, we have all kinds of plants that are pretty generous to people with a black thumb, ones that are tolerant to a little bit of neglect. But basically you don't get better at gardening unless you try.
Right, yeah. I know, like, my 6-year-old son who's learning how to garden is starting small with just some house plants, and he is really good at drowning every plant that he waters. So,
well, at least they're not drying out on his watch.
That's true.
But, yes. That's an incredible learning opportunity because he's going to eventually see, okay, too much water means the plant gets yellowed, it starts to get droopy and dying. So you can actually gauge how well you're doing by just observing the plant. So those observations, he's on the right track. He's 6 years old. He's going to be making some way better decisions in another 6 years.
Yeah, there you go. All right, we're talking to Corey Collins from the Collins Family Farm, and he's setting up. He's ready as we speak. He is in the process of getting that world-famous, award-winning local corn maze set up.
That is very true. American theme this year for the 250th anniversary. I'm cutting trails within the next couple of days, so it is definitely started.
And if people want to learn more about the Collins Family Farm, where can they go to?
Well, you can find us on Facebook, Collins Farm LLC, or you can go to collinsfarmllc.com and check out our website for more information. We got contact info on there. My number's on there. If people want to call me and they have questions, there's ways to get in touch.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, Corey.
Not a problem, Josh. I appreciate you having me on today.
And that was a conversation we had with Corey Collins earlier today. And coming up next is going to be Mark Breen with the Fairbanks from the Fairbanks Museum to keep us up to date with the Outdoor Edge forecast. That's coming up right after these important messages.
The Autosaver Group St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram asks, do your outdoor adventures take you to where you wish you had a four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive? At St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, explore their vast inventory of adventure-savvy four-wheel drives and all-wheel drive vehicles ready for you to drive at home. Plus, every St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram deal includes the Big Deal Plus, which is a 2-year unlimited scheduled maintenance plan, which includes free state inspections for life. Stop in today in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, or shop St. Johnsbury Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram online at stjohnsburycdjr.com.
I'm Mark Breen. Welcome to the Outdoor Edge forecast. Long days and short nights, that's a key part to our outdoor plans. During June, you often have a fair amount of time until the sun sets near 8:30 for some late day activities. And if you're an early bird, it's bright enough by 4:45. Yes, 4:45. To get the day started. In spite of the long days, the temperatures are still playing catch-up in most years. Average daytimes warm to the 70s, nights cool down to about 50 degrees. As we saw earlier this week, we can see some 40s, even 30s during cool spells, while yesterday and today have delivered some 80s. And you can even see some heat waves, like last year's blistering stretch of mid-90s. One of the interesting things about rain during June, we can see a late season nor'easter bringing a few days of steadier, chillier rainfall like the two we saw in 2017, a few days staying in the 50s. But we can also see some classic summertime thunderstorms releasing torrential rains, even some damaging winds and squalls. June 2nd of 2013 produced some severe thunderstorms with ping-pong ball-size hail in West Fairleigh and trees and power lines down throughout Bradford. I'm glad to note we won't be seeing any extreme weather over the next several days. However, as you work up your outdoor plans, the weekend will be a challenge. A slow-moving cold front settling south from Quebec will increase the chances of showers, possibly a thunderstorm on Saturday, with the best chance Saturday afternoon into early Sunday. It should still be warm ahead of the front, but it turns cooler on Sunday as the front progresses southward. The timing is less certain. A slower front holds back the showers on Saturday, but they linger most of Sunday. A faster passage brings the showers in earlier on Saturday, but it might be okay by Sunday afternoon. Looking ahead to next week, cooler, drier weather settles in for the first part of the next week, although nothing all that cool, with another warming trend toward the middle of the week. Some showers are possible during the second half of next week, but nothing heavy is currently indicated. Getting back to the forecast through the weekend, for tonight, you can look for mainly clear skies through this evening, some periods of clouds, mild in the 50s. Then Friday, sun and clouds, more afternoon clouds, highs tomorrow 80 to 85. For Friday night, becoming mostly cloudy, remaining mild in the 50s to near 60, and then Saturday, cloudy, periods of showers moving in, perhaps a thunderstorm, highs in the upper 70s to around 80. Saturday night, a chance of evening thunderstorms, otherwise periods of showers, continued mild, 50s to near 60, and then Sunday, cloudy, occasional showers, but diminishing in the afternoon, cooler, highs on Sunday, 70 to 75. That's your Outdoor Edge forecast. I'm Fairbanks Museum meteorologist Mark Breen. Good luck and enjoy the great outdoors.
Thank you so much, Mark. And that is going to do it for this week's St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge. A big thank you to Lisa Sausville of Vermont Coverts, Woodlands for Wildlife, for sharing her knowledge about forestry, wildlife habitat, and conservation across Vermont. And also a big thanks to Corey Collins for bringing us the latest spring backyard report and giving listeners an exclusive preview of what's coming to the world-famous Collins Corn Maze this year. It's always exciting when signs of the next season start appearing around the region. And of course, we also want to thank Mark Breen from the Fairbanks Museum for keeping us up to date with the Outdoor Edge forecast. And remember, if you missed any part of today's program, you can listen anytime at WYKR.com or on the WYKR app, and that'll be available next day or wherever you get your podcasts. And you're going to hear more of us this weekend because we also have the Bear Ridge Speedway. We're going to be broadcasting live at the Bear Ridge Speedway this Saturday. And also on Saturday, we're going to be doing a live remote at Tractor Supply this Saturday from 11 to 1, where we are going to be talking about Backyard Butchers. They have a lot of good sales on meat. So it's 20 ribeyes for $39. They've got chicken. They've got crab legs. They've got all kinds of stuff. And WYKR is going to be there for 2 hours talking all about Backyard Butchers. And then on Monday, we are going to be doing another live remote from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. with Land, Learn, and Fly, the after-school program that takes place in our region. So there's tons of stuff that's happening this weekend, and you're going to be hearing a lot of us. And until next time, though, we're talking about the Outdoor Edge. As I say, you can, if you download the app, you can hear all of our previous episodes on demand. But anyway, until next time, stay safe out there, folks.